Hey everyone. Tonight, we are traveling far north, beyond the last soft forests, into a Scandinavian winter so cold that sound itself seems to freeze. The snow does not fall here. It settles, it piles, it waits. And beneath it, tucked low against the earth, stand Norwegian log houses built to endure temperatures, where breath crystallizes midder and wood and split with a sharp gunshot crack. This is a land where winter lasts most of the year and darkness can stretch for weeks. At 40 degrees, survival is not traumatic. It is quiet, careful, and repetitive. Doors are low to trap warmth. Walls are stacked thick with interlocking pine logs, each one chosen, dried, and fitted by hand. Moss is pressed into every seam, not for beauty, but to stop the cold from finding a way inside. When the wind howls, the house does not answer. It simply absorbs the sound. Inside, the world narrows. A single room glows with firelight, reflected off tar-darkened logs. Smoke from the hearth drifts slowly upward, clinging to the ceiling before slipping out through a small opening. Just enough to keep the fire alive, just enough to keep the family breathing. Clothing never truly dries. Wool is layered upon wool. Hands move slowly, conserving warmth. At night, people sleep close to the walls, where the logs still hold the memory of the day's heat. These houses were not built quickly, and they were never built once. Logs were replaced, roofs were weighted with sod and snow, floors were raised above the frozen ground. Every choice was shaped by generations who understood that the cold never forgives shortcuts. Fire was fed before hunger. Silence was respected because noise wasted energy. And when storms came, families waited them out, listening to the roof creak under the weight of winter itself. Before we continue, if these slow journeys into the past help you unwind, feel free to like and subscribe, only if it feels right. Let me know where you're listening from and what the weather is like outside your window right now. It's comforting to imagine these stories, warming rooms all over the world. Now, ease back and imagine the scent of pine resin and smoke, the muffled hush of snow piling against log walls, the soft glow of embers reflecting in wooden bowls and iron tools. Tonight, we're not rushing through history. We are staying put, waiting out the winter with the people who learned how to live when the cold was absolute. The night was endless, and warmth was something you built with your own hands. Part 1. The House in a Frozen World. Waking in the Arctic silence. A profound stillness, a chill so deep it felt like a physical pressure, nudged you awake from the heavy slumber. It wasn't a sudden noise, but the insidious seep of cold that permeated every fiber of the sturdy log house, through thick reindeer hides and layers of wool, reaching into your very bones. You opened your eyes in near darkness. The air so cold, it stung your lungs with each tentative inhale. A delicate filigree of frost, shimmering faintly like white feathers, coated the rough-hewn log walls, a chilling declaration of nature's relentless siege. Outside, the world was locked in a silence so vast, so absolute, that even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The fire, the very heart of survival, slept beneath a careful blanket of ash, its life reduced to a tenacious glow of embers. Life in a Norwegian log house, particularly above the Arctic Circle during winter, presented an existence fundamentally shaped by extreme cold. Awakening here was not a gentle transition, but a harsh confrontation with an environment designed to extinguish warmth. Every breath, visible as a fleeting cloud in the frigid air, bore witness to the constant internal battle to maintain vital body heat. The sleeping platform, a raised bed built into the log wall, provided better insulation than a floor-level pallet, but offered scant comfort against the pervasive cold. Layers of dried grasses, perhaps some moss, and numerous reindeer hides cushioned your body. Yet the chill persisted, creeping into muscles stiff from a night of minimal movement. Sleep, when it came, was a heavy descent into utter exhaustion, a temporary surrender to a body perpetually pushed to its limits by ceaseless toil. Returning consciousness brought with it the familiar ache in your joints, a low thrum of hunger in your belly. Inside the log house, the air hung heavy and still, thick with the earthy scent of pine logs, persistent wood smoke from the banked hearth, and the subtle, musky aroma of animal hides. This intimate perfume of home, however pungent, served as a fragile bastion against the immense, hostile world outside. The tiny windows, unglazed openings protected by thick wooden shutters or stretched animal bladders, were sealed tight, yet the cold insinuated itself through every minute crack in the massive logs, through gaps in the thick turf roof, a relentless, subtle invasion. Sounds within the sleeping home were muted, absorbed by the massive log walls and the deep snow piled higher than the doorways outside. The soft rustle of hides as a family member stirred, the low, rhythmic breathing of a husband, the gentle sighs of children nestled deep in their furs. These intimate sounds formed a fragile chorus against the immensity of the Arctic quiet. Often, the low murmur of sheep or goats, housed in an adjacent section of the dwelling, added a deeper, comforting hum, their animal warmth contributing a vital, if odorous, increment to the internal microclimate, a crucial aid against the biting chill. The frost, clinging like white lace to the inner surfaces of the log walls, particularly near the small window openings, served as a stark visual reminder of lethal temperatures outside. Your breath, visible in the dim light, mingled with the last wisps of smoke from the banked hearth, creating a hazy, ethereal atmosphere. The fire, meticulously managed and kept low to conserve precious fuel, was reduced to embers, but its persistent glow was a constant, visible anchor, a tiny, defiant spark against the overwhelming cold of -40 degrees Celsius. Rising from the sleeping platform required a conscious act of will. Numb, bare feet met the cold wooden planks, sending a sharp jolt through the body. The coarse wool tunic, worn for days, felt stiff against your skin, its fibers already absorbing the pervasive chill. There were no hot baths, no soft towels, no quick comforts to ease the transition from sleep to wakefulness. Only the raw, unyielding reality of a life lived in constant negotiation with the elements. Hope, however fragile, flickered within. It drew strength from the lingering warmth of the banked fire, from the shared presence of family, from the unwavering belief that another day, however difficult, was another chance for survival, another step closer to spring. This quiet, persistent hope was an invisible shield, protecting the spirit from the despair that constantly threatened to overwhelm. You open your eyes in near darkness, frost thick on the log walls, the air so cold it stings your lungs as the fire sleeps beneath ash. Dawn in the Arctic silence unveils a profound reality of Norwegian winter. This immersive journey through frozen forests, dim interiors, and the quiet endurance of families living where breath turns to frost reveals how log houses became enduring symbols of survival against the impossible cold. The art of the corner notch, with the massive log walls now defying the brutal Arctic cold, turning timber into an impregnable shield. The integrity of the Norwegian home depended on the meticulous skill applied to its weakest points. The art of the corner notch was a profound architectural secret. Saddle notches and interlocking corners sealed warmth inside, resisting wind and time alike, transforming simple log joinery into a sophisticated thermal barrier, a testament to ancient craftsmanship, precise engineering, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at -40 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the newly built log house, thick with the earthy scent of fresh-cut pine, seasoned timber, and the subtle tang of human effort. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense log walls. Perhaps the rhythmic thunk of a mallet on a wooden peg, or the soft scrape of a shaping tool. Snow piled higher than doorways, a visible barrier, underscored the immense importance of their craft. Log construction, particularly stacking horizontal timbers, presents a unique challenge at the corners. Simple overlapping would leave significant gaps, creating severe drafts and compromising insulation. Medieval Norwegian builders developed highly sophisticated joinery techniques, honed over centuries, to overcome this, ensuring airtight, stable corners. Listen to the rhythmic thunk of a wooden mallet driving a peg into a precisely carved notch. A sound of precision and deliberate effort that resonated through the sturdy framework. Hear the subtle scrape of a shaping tool, meticulously fine-tuning a log end to ensure a perfect fit. See the massive pine logs, their ends intricately carved, interlocking seamlessly at the corners, creating a robust, almost impenetrable seal. Saddle notches and interlocking corners sealed warmth inside, resisting wind and time alike. The primary technique was the saddle notch, or full scribe fit. Each log was carefully hand-scribed to fit precisely over the curved contour of the log below it, ensuring no gaps. At the corners, complex interlocking notches, such as dovetail or saddle notches, were meticulously carved. These joints allowed the logs to interlock tightly, creating a structurally sound and incredibly airtight seal, preventing cold air from infiltrating. This precise joinery was crucial for insulation. By eliminating gaps, it prevented the ceaseless, biting Arctic winds from penetrating the walls, minimizing heat loss. The tight fit trapped precious air within the walls, contributing significantly to the house's thermal efficiency, allowing it to withstand temperatures plummeting to -40 degrees Celsius, -40 degrees Fahrenheit. The craftsmanship involved was painstaking. Each log had to be individually measured, scribed, and cut to fit its unique position within the wall stack. This was a skill passed down orally, through rigorous apprenticeship from father to son, from master to apprentice, a living, evolving tradition of precision engineering. The psychological comfort derived from such robust, airtight corners was immense. It provided a palpable sense of security, knowing that the very architecture of their home was an active, formidable defense against the lethal cold. It affirmed their deep ecological understanding and their capacity for profound adaptation. Its story, carved in every intricate notch, whispered of profound protection. The art of the corner notch reveals a vital secret. Saddle notches and interlocking corners sealed warmth inside, resisting wind and time alike. This meticulous craft shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Floors above the permafrost, with the massive, interlocking log walls defying the brutal Arctic cold, and every corner meticulously sealed, the medieval Norwegian home addressed another critical interface with its lethal environment: the ground beneath. Floors above the permafrost were a profound architectural secret. Wooden planks lifted bodies away from frozen earth that could steal heat through bone and sleep, transforming a simple foundation into a sophisticated thermal barrier, a testament to ancient ecological understanding, ingenious craftsmanship, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at -40 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the earthy scent of fresh-cut pine, dried moss, and lingering wood smoke, mingling with the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the soft creak of wooden planks underfoot, or the gentle rustle of hides, creating a quiet cadence. Boots drying near a low hearth, gently illuminated by its flickering glow, rested on a floor that offered surprising warmth. The ground in many parts of northern Norway, particularly above the Arctic Circle, could be permanently frozen, permafrost, or deeply frozen during the long winter months. A direct earth floor, or even thin wooden planks laid directly on the frozen ground, would relentlessly radiate lethal cold upwards, chilling the interior and making sleep profoundly dangerous. Medieval builders developed ingenious solutions to combat this insidious invasion of cold from below. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the soft creak of wooden planks as someone shifted their weight, a rhythmic cadence that spoke of the floor's robust construction. See the floor itself, not directly on the earth, but subtly elevated, its wooden surface a clear, crucial separation from the frozen ground below, glowing faintly in the firelight. Wooden planks lifted bodies away from frozen earth. They could steal heat through bone and sleep. The most effective method was to construct a raised wooden floor. Heavy timber joists, often rough-hewn pine, would be laid over sturdy stone foundations or stout wooden posts, creating a significant crawl space beneath the main living area. This elevated wooden floor, often then covered with layers of insulating materials like dried moss, lichen, or reindeer hides, created a crucial air gap between the living space and the cold, damp ground. This air gap was the key to its insulating power. It prevented the direct transfer of lethal cold and dampness from the frozen earth or permafrost upwards into the home. The trapped air within this space, warmed slightly by the radiant heat from the hearth and the collective body heat of the occupants, formed a vital thermal buffer, effectively stopping the frost from creeping upward at night. This ensured a more consistent survivable warmth within the dwelling, protecting sleeping bodies from bone-chilling cold. The construction of these raised floors was meticulous, demanding skill, and significant labor. The timber had to be carefully selected and fitted, ensuring a stable and resilient platform. The crawl space itself might be filled with additional insulating materials for even greater protection. The psychological comfort derived from such a floor was immense. It provided a palpable sense of security, knowing that the very architecture of their home was actively working to protect them from the lethal cold. It affirmed their deep ecological understanding and their capacity for profound adaptation. Its story, etched in every raised plank, whispered of profound foresight. Floors above the permafrost reveal a vital secret. Wooden planks lifted bodies away from frozen earth. They could steal heat through bone and sleep. This ingenious design shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. The hearth at the center of everything, with massive log walls defying the bitter Arctic winds and cleverly raised floors insulating against the frozen earth, the final, most crucial element for survival, pulsed at the heart of the medieval Norwegian home. The hearth at the center of everything was more than a mere fire pit. Fire was not decoration. It was survival, law, and ritual combined, transforming a dangerous element into the very pulse of life, warmth, and unshakable security, providing a constant guardian against the terrifying darkness and the relentless cold that threatened to engulf their fragile existence at -40 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of reindeer hides, damp earth, and a subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by the dry, sharp scent of burning fuel. Sounds within the dwelling included the rhythmic crackle and pop of burning wood, the contented sizzle of simmering stew, and the hushed murmurs of a family huddled close. Reindeer hides hanging near a central hearth, gently illuminated by its flickering glow, became the heart of their world. The central hearth, typically a shallow, circular pit dug into the packed earth floor, often above the raised floor and lined with stones, was the undisputed focal point of the Norwegian home. It was meticulously placed at the very center of the single-room dwelling, allowing heat to radiate outwards evenly throughout the entire space. It cooked their food, provided essential light, and most crucially, generated the warmth that literally kept the family alive. Listen to the rhythmic crackle and pop of the burning wood, a constant, comforting symphony against the profound silence of the frozen night. Hear the contented sizzle of thick porridge, simmering in a heavy iron cauldron suspended over the central fire, its rich, earthy aroma filling the home, making hungry bellies ache with anticipation. See the dancing flames, their orange and red hues pushing back the encroaching darkness, illuminating the rough log walls, transforming the simple timbers into a canvas of shifting shadows, a dynamic, living heart for the human cluster. Fire was not decoration. It was survival, law, and ritual combined. Fuel scraps of wood, gathered peat, or dried animal dung was precious and constantly scarce in winter. The fire was meticulously managed, often kept to a low, smoldering glow throughout the night, its embers carefully banked with ash. Its persistent glow was a constant, visible anchor. It provided warmth, cooked food, offered light against the terrifying darkness, deterred wild animals, and in a profound sense, embodied law and ritual. The laws of the hearth were unspoken but absolute. Its maintenance was paramount, its sanctity revered. Rituals, from the morning rekindling to the evening banking, governed its use. It was a communal gathering place, where stories were told, decisions made, and bonds reinforced. It was seen as a living entity, a gift from the gods, demanding constant respect and meticulous care. The warmth that emanated from the hearth, however struggling, was the central reason for its existence. It allowed bodies to thaw, to recover from the pervasive chill, to find moments of precious rest. It allowed families to gather, to share stories, to reinforce the bonds that held them together against overwhelming hardship. Its story, written in every dancing flame, whispered of profound protection. The hearth at the center of everything reveals a vital secret. Fire was not decoration. It was survival, law, and ritual combined. This ancient focal point shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the fierce, unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Part 2. Building for 40 degrees Celsius survival, timber chosen in deep winter. With the formidable log walls, ingeniously notched corners, raised floors, and central hearth defying the Arctic's lethal cold. The integrity of the Norwegian home began long before construction. Timber chosen in deep winter was a profound strategic secret. Trees felled in frozen forests, sap stilled, wood hardened by cold before shaping, transforming raw lumber into the very backbone of their enduring shelters. A testament to profound ecological understanding, painstaking craftsmanship, and the unwavering will to extract life-saving materials from a harsh, demanding environment. Imagine the air outside, utterly frigid, sharp, and brutal, stealing your breath. Thick with the earthy scent of fresh-cut pine, frozen ground, and the subtle tang of human effort. Sounds within the frozen forest included the rhythmic swing of axes, the deep groan of falling trees, and the muffled crunch of footsteps on fresh snow. Snow piled higher than doorways, here replaced by immense, silent, snow-covered pines, waiting to yield their bounty. The selection and felling of timber for building was not a casual act. It was a precise, laborious, and often dangerous task, performed with intimate knowledge of the forest and its cycles. The choice of tree species, often sturdy pine or resilient spruce, abundant in the northern forests, its age, its health, and its growth pattern were all meticulously considered. For the quality of the timber directly impacted the strength and insulation of the future house. Listen to the rhythmic swing of axes, their sharp metallic clang echoing through the profound stillness of the winter forest, as men, their breath pluming white, labored to fell mighty trees. Hear the deep groan and crack of a massive trunk, slowly succumbing, its branches rustling violently as it crashed to the snow-covered ground with a muffled thud. See the figures, hunched against the cold, their faces grimly focused on the arduous task, their muscles straining, their tools biting into the frozen wood. Trees felled in frozen forests, sap stilled, wood hardened by cold before shaping. The felling of trees in deep winter was a deliberate, strategic choice, deeply rooted in centuries of practical experience. During the coldest months, trees are dormant, their sap content at its lowest. This meant that timber cut in winter contained less moisture, making it less prone to warping, shrinking, and cracking as it dried. This still sap timber was naturally harder, denser, and more resistant to rot, fungal decay, and insect infestation crucial for the longevity and structural integrity of a log house built to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius. Once felled, the heavy logs were painstakingly hauled from the forest, often a back-breaking task through deep snow, using human muscle or hardy draft animals. They would then be dried slowly, often for many months or even years, in sheltered spots, allowing the wood to season properly, further increasing its strength and stability. This slow drying process was essential for preventing future movement and ensuring the timber's resilience against the brutal cold and dampness of a Norwegian winter. The shaping of the timber was equally painstaking. With axes, adzes, and saws, the rough logs were transformed into precise interlocking beams. Each piece was meticulously worked, its dimensions carefully measured, its surfaces smoothed, its notches precisely cut, all with the ultimate goal of creating a structure that would defy the relentless cold and damp. Its story, carved in every mighty log, whispered of profound foresight. Timber chosen in deep winter reveals a vital secret. Trees felled in frozen forests, sap stilled, wood hardened by cold before shaping. This meticulous process shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Moss, lichen, and animal hair, with the robust timber frame meticulously chosen and shaped in deep winter, its interlocking logs forming impregnable walls. Medieval Norwegian builders turned their attention to the critical, subtle details of insulation. Moss, lichen, and animal hair were the profound organic secrets of warmth. Natural insulation packed between logs, meticulously sealing cracks where death could creep inside, transforming humble plant matter into a crucial thermal barrier, a testament to profound ecological understanding, painstaking craftsmanship, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at minus 40 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the newly built log house, thick with the earthy scent of fresh-cut pine, dried moss, and lingering wood smoke, mingling with the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the soft rustle of dried plant matter being packed, or the low murmur of voices discussing its meticulous placement. Snow piled higher than doorways, a visible barrier, underscored the immense importance of their craft. Even with precisely cut, interlocking logs, tiny gaps and seams would inevitably remain between the massive timbers of a log house. These seemingly insignificant cracks, however, could become lethal conduits for the biting Arctic winds and the insidious creep of cold, compromising the entire structure's insulating power. Medieval builders developed ingenious natural solutions to seal these vulnerabilities. Listen to the rhythmic thump-thump of a wooden mallet, gently tapping dried moss into a crevice, a sound of patient, meticulous effort. Hear the low murmur of voices, discussing the effectiveness of a particular pack, the tightness of a seal. See the hands, rough and calloused, yet moving with remarkable dexterity, carefully pushing bundles of fibrous material into the narrow gaps between the logs. Natural insulation packed between logs, sealing cracks where death could creep inside. The primary materials used for chinking or daubing. These gaps were abundant and natural. Moss, particularly resilient sphagnum or other dense varieties, was meticulously collected during warmer months, then dried thoroughly. Lichen, scraped from rocks and trees, offered similar insulating properties. Animal hair, shed from reindeer, elk, or other livestock, was often mixed with these plant fibers or with clay, creating a durable, fibrous insulating mixture. These materials were carefully packed into every crack and seam between the logs, both on the interior and exterior of the house. The dense packing created countless tiny air pockets, which acted as an excellent thermal barrier, preventing heat from escaping and cold from infiltrating. This methodical process was crucial for creating an airtight, draft-free interior, vital for defying temperatures plummeting to -40 degrees Celsius. The craftsmanship involved was painstaking. It required immense patience, a profound understanding of natural materials, and an unwavering commitment to detail. Every small gap was a potential point of failure, a breach in their fragile thermal defense. The communal effort to gather, prepare, and pack these natural insulators was a silent, persistent battle against the elements. The psychological comfort derived from such a well-sealed home was immense. It provided a palpable sense of security, knowing that every effort had been made to protect them from the lethal cold. It affirmed their deep ecological understanding and their capacity for profound adaptation. Its story, woven into every sealed scene, whispered of profound protection. Moss, lichen, and animal hair reveal a vital secret. Natural insulation packed between logs, sealing cracks where death could creep inside. This meticulous craft shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Roofs heavy enough to endure snow, with the massive log walls and meticulously sealed cracks defying the brutal Arctic winds and lethal cold. Medieval Norwegian builders turned their attention to the ultimate shield against the elements above. Roofs heavy enough to endure snow were a profound architectural secret. Log beams and turf roofs built to carry crushing weight without collapse, transforming a simple covering into a sophisticated structural masterpiece. A testament to ingenious craftsmanship, deep ecological understanding, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at -40 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp soil, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction above. Perhaps the soft creak of straining log beams, or the muffled thud of fresh snowfall, creating a low, resonant hum. Snow piled higher than doorways, here replaced by immense, towering snowdrifts against the eaves, illuminated by firelight. The roofs of medieval Norwegian houses, particularly in regions prone to immense snowfall, were not lightly constructed. They were massive, heavily built structures, specifically engineered to manage the crushing weight of accumulated snow and ice. This was a profound understanding of structural mechanics, far beyond simple shelter. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the soft crackle of the central hearth fire, its warmth rising. See the massive, heavy roof structure, its thick layers of timber and earth, creating a formidable barrier against the elements. Its very weight a declaration of defiance. Log beams and turf roofs built to carry crushing weight without collapse. The primary structure consisted of stout, heavy log beams, meticulously shaped and fitted, spanning the width of the house. These massive timbers formed an incredibly strong framework, capable of supporting immense loads. Over this framework, layers of timber planks would be laid, often covered by birch bark for waterproofing. Crucially, on top of this, thick layers of turf, sod, earth, and grass, held together by roots, were laid. This turf roof was incredibly heavy, but it provided unparalleled insulation. It trapped heat within the house, minimizing loss and acted as a living organic blanket against the extreme cold. The weight of the turf itself, combined with the inevitable snow accumulation, could be immense, but the robust log beams were specifically designed to carry this crushing burden without collapse. The steep angles of some roofs, though flat or gently sloping roofs with turf were also common, helped shed some snow, but the primary strategy was to build a roof strong enough to simply hold whatever snow fell. This snow, once settled, added further insulation, becoming part of the house's protective shell. The craftsmanship involved was meticulous. The precise dimensions of the log beams, their careful fitting, the laborious process of cutting and laying turf all were elements of a profound understanding of building mechanics and environmental adaptation. This knowledge, encompassing not just carpentry, but a deep understanding of local climate, was passed down orally, through apprenticeship, from generation to generation. Its story, etched in every heavy beam, whispered of profound strength. Roofs heavy enough to endure snow reveals a vital secret. Log beams and turf roofs built to carry crushing weight without collapse. This ingenious design shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Doors that opened inward, with massive snow-bearing roofs and meticulously insulated walls. Medieval Norwegian log houses defied the brutal Arctic winter in countless ingenious ways. Even the simplest architectural feature, the door, held a profound secret of survival. Doors that opened inward were a crucial, pragmatic innovation. Snowdrifts buried thresholds. Inward doors meant escape, not entombment, transforming a basic entry point into a life-saving mechanism. A testament to profound foresight and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at minus 40 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of reindeer hides, damp earth, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the low murmur of voices, discussing the rising snow outside, or the rhythmic creak of timber. Snow piled higher than doorways. A visible, ominous barrier underscored the immense importance of this design choice. In regions above the Arctic Circle, snowfall could be immense, quickly accumulating into drifts that could entirely bury a dwelling. For houses with doors that opened outward, a heavy snowdrift pressed against the door would make it impossible to open, effectively trapping the occupants inside, transforming their sanctuary into a tomb. Medieval Norwegian builders understood this profound danger. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the rhythmic creak of wooden planks as someone shifted their weight. See the heavy wooden door, thick and stout, its surface reflecting the flickering firelight, positioned to swing inward, a subtle but vital detail in its design. Snowdrifts buried thresholds. Inward doors meant escape, not entombment. The deliberate choice to design doors that opened inward was a brilliant adaptation to the extreme winter conditions. Even if snowdrifts piled several feet high against the exterior of the house, completely burying the doorway, the occupants could still push the door open inward, clearing the snow from within and allowing themselves to escape. This prevented catastrophic entombment, ensuring a crucial exit route. This design feature was a profound act of foresight. It recognized the overwhelming power of nature and engineered a solution that anticipated its most lethal challenge. It transformed a potential death trap into a life-saving mechanism, allowing families to access the outside world for fuel, water, or in case of emergency, even during the most severe blizzards. The craftsmanship involved was meticulous. The door frame had to be robust, the hinges strong, and the door itself thick and well insulated to minimize heat loss. Its placement and swing were carefully considered, a testament to generations of practical experience in a harsh environment. The psychological comfort derived from knowing they could always open their door, even when buried by snow, was immense. It provided a palpable sense of security, a vital antidote to the pervasive fear of being trapped, affirming their ingenuity and capacity for profound adaptation. Its story, etched in every inward swing, whispered of profound foresight. Doors that opened inward reveal a vital secret. Snowdrifts buried thresholds. Inward doors meant escape, not entombment. This ingenious design shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Tiny windows against endless night, through massive roofs designed for snow and inward opening doors offering escape, medieval Norwegian log houses meticulously prepared for the brutal -40 degrees Celsius winter. Yet, even in their pursuit of ultimate warmth, the need for light, however minimal, persisted. Tiny windows against endless night were a profound practical reality. Glass was rare. Openings were small, precious, and fiercely protected from heat loss, transforming essential apertures into carefully managed barriers, underscoring the deep understanding of insulation and resourcefulness required to defy pervasive cold and profound darkness. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of reindeer hides, damp earth, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the gentle rustle of a hide covering a window, or the low murmur of voices discussing its careful sealing. Blue twilight filtering through tiny windows, its faint glow struggling against the interior gloom. Illuminated faces etched with weariness, but imbued with quiet, profound purpose. Medieval Norwegian houses, particularly those above the Arctic Circle, faced the challenge of prolonged darkness during the polar night, when the sun might not rise for weeks. Yet large windows, so common in modern homes, would have been catastrophic for heat retention in such extreme cold. Medieval builders made deliberate, pragmatic choices to minimize heat loss through these crucial openings. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the soft crackle of the central hearth fire, its warmth rising. See the small, dark openings in the thick log walls, their surfaces either covered by stretched animal bladders or a crude wooden shutter, offering a dim, diffused light, but fiercely protected from heat loss. Glass was rare. Openings were small, precious, and fiercely protected from heat loss. Glass was an expensive luxury, far beyond the means of common folk in medieval Norway. Instead, window openings were deliberately kept very small, minimizing the surface area through which heat could escape. These tiny openings were typically covered with translucent materials like stretched animal bladder from reindeer or fish or oiled parchment, allowing a dim, diffused light to penetrate while providing a crucial barrier against the wind and snow. Over these translucent covers, heavy wooden shutters were meticulously secured, particularly at night and during blizzards. These thick, solid planks provided additional, robust insulation, completely blocking out the biting winds and preventing lethal heat loss. They were closed tightly at dusk and only opened partially during the day, if weather conditions permitted, and some additional light was absolutely necessary for tasks. The deliberate choice to sacrifice abundant light for paramount warmth was a profound adaptation to the extreme cold. With outside temperatures plummeting to -40 degrees Celsius, retaining internal heat was an absolute priority. The limited diffused light from these tiny windows and the near total darkness when shutters were closed was a small price to pay for preventing lethal heat loss. The psychological impact of this limited light was immense. It transformed the interior of the home into a perpetual gloom, intensifying the reliance on firelight and oil lamps. But it also provided a profound sense of security, a palpable comfort, knowing that the lethal cold and the dangers of the endless night were effectively sealed out. Its story, etched in every small frame, whispered of profound protection. Tiny windows against endless night reveal a vital secret. Glass was rare. Openings were small, precious, and fiercely protected from heat loss. This ingenious design shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Part 3. Life inside the ice, dressing like the land. By their log houses meticulously designed to defy the brutal Arctic winter, and its inhabitants seeking refuge within. Another crucial layer of defense shielded humanity from the minus 40 degrees Celsius cold, their clothing. Dressing like the land was a continuous, uncompromising ritual. Wool, fur, and layered hides turned human bodies into walking shelters, transforming essential garments into an indispensable mobile fortress against the frost, defining the very essence of human warmth and endurance in a world utterly indifferent to exposed flesh. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, tanned hides, and damp earth, mingling with the rich, earthy smell of dense fur and unwashed wool. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the soft rustle of heavy fabrics as a family member stirred, or the gentle creak of worn leather. Boots drying near a low hearth, gently illuminated by its flickering glow, sat beside layers of clothing, ready for the day's extreme conditions. Your wardrobe consisted of simple utilitarian garments, passed down through generations, meticulously mended countless times. Clothing was expensive to produce, made from painstakingly processed animal hides and shorn wool from precious sheep. Every stitch, every piece of fabric was a treasured commodity, vital for survival against the unforgiving cold. Listen to the soft rustle of coarse wool as you moved, the faint scrape of fabric against skin, a constant low-level irritation amplified by the pervasive odors. Hear the gentle creak of worn leather as a belt was fastened or a boot pulled on. See the dull, muted colors of the garments, blending into the earthy tones of the home and the frozen landscape, their surfaces thick with accumulated dirt, grease, and the indelible marks of daily labor. Wool, fur, and layered hides turned human bodies into walking shelters. The genius of Arctic cold weather survival lay in meticulous layering and material selection. A base layer of rough wool, often worn directly against the skin, wicketed away moisture and provided initial insulation. Over this, multiple tunics, trousers, and leggings of dense, undyed wool were worn. Wool, with its natural lanolin, offered remarkable insulation, trapped air, and crucially, retained warmth even when damp. Fur, particularly from reindeer, bear, or other large mammals, provided the ultimate outer layer. Thick, heavy fur parkas, trousers, and hoods, often lined with internal fur facing inwards, created multiple, highly insulating air pockets. These garments were meticulously sewn with sinew thread and bone needles, their seams reinforced and often sealed with animal fat for added wind and water resistance. Leather, used for boots, mittens, and sometimes jerkins, provided an additional impermeable barrier. These combined layers transformed the human body into a walking, breathing shelter, a formidable fortress against the cold's insidious bite, protecting fragile flesh from frostbite and hypothermia in temperatures plummeting to minus 40 degrees Celsius. The cumulative effect of these layers was paramount, a continuous battle against the elements. Fashion mattered far less than warmth. There was no room for ostentation or frivolous display. The primary purpose of clothing was function, to insulate, to protect, to preserve life. Every garment was chosen and worn for its capacity to trap precious body heat, transforming the wearer into a mobile barrier against the lethal chill. Its story, woven into every grubby thread, whispered of profound protection. Dressing like the land reveals a vital secret. Wool, fur, and layered hides turned human bodies into walking shelters. This meticulous approach shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the fierce, unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their clothing enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Sleeping in the warmest corner. Sleeping in the warmest corner was a fundamental, primal ritual. Beds built near walls of heat, bodies pressed together beneath reindeer skins, transforming a simple sleeping arrangement into a sophisticated thermal strategy, a testament to profound interdependence and the relentless art of staying warm. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by a palpable, almost suffocating closeness. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the soft rustle of heavy reindeer hides, the gentle breathing of a family huddled close, and the profound, comforting hum of collective life. Blue twilight filtering through tiny windows, now entirely obscured by internal frost, illuminated a dense mound of human and animal forms. The log house, for all its robustness, still had varying temperatures. The areas closest to the central hearth and the interior walls that absorbed its radiant heat were the warmest. The corners, often deeper, and the sections furthest from the fire were the coldest. Medieval Norwegians understood this thermal gradient implicitly, and their sleeping arrangements were meticulously designed to exploit it. Listen to the gentle, rhythmic breathing of your family members, their soft snores, the occasional cough that echoed in the small, enclosed space. Hear the subtle movements of heavy reindeer hides, the rustle of straw as bodies instinctively sought a closer, warmer position. See the indistinct forms of the huddle in the dim light of the dying fire. A protective mound of human life against the immense, cold emptiness outside. Beds built near walls of heat, bodies pressed together beneath reindeer skins. Sleeping platforms, often raised beds built along the warmest interior walls, those adjacent to the hearth or insulated by other rooms' byres, were the preferred sleeping spots. These positions minimized exposure to cold drafts and maximized radiant heat absorption. Within these beds, the entire family, parents, children, and sometimes elderly relatives would pack together into a tight huddle. Limbs would intertwine. Bodies would press close against each other, creating a single dense mass of human warmth. Reindeer skins were the ultimate bedding. Their exceptionally dense fur, often layered over dried moss or grasses, provided unparalleled insulation. These hides were draped over the sleeping bodies, creating a communal blanket, trapping precious body heat, and providing an almost impenetrable shield against the biting cold that seeped from the frozen ground and permeated the thick log walls. Each human and animal body, if animals shared the dwelling, burning its own internal furnace from meager rations, contributed its heat to the collective. The air trapped between the intertwined forms, warmed and contained by their combined heat and the thick furs, became a personal microclimate, a remarkably effective defense against temperatures plummeting to -40 degrees Celsius. Its story, woven into every shared breath, whispered of profound interdependence. Sleeping in the warmest corner reveals a vital secret. Beds built near walls of heat, bodies pressed together beneath reindeer skins. This strategy defined how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Cooking in frozen darkness. Cooking in frozen darkness was a profound, daily ritual. Boiled meat, dried fish, and thick porridges sustained life when nothing grew outside, transforming scarce provisions into life-giving fuel and underscoring the relentless ingenuity and communal cooperation required to keep the family fed and warm during the long, dark Arctic winter. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the rich, savory scent of simmering meat and boiling liquids. Sounds within the dwelling included the contented sizzle of thick soup, the rhythmic plunk of heated stones, and the low murmur of hungry anticipation. The crackle of fire at the heart of the night, casting dancing shadows, illuminated a scene of vital, communal preparation. The Arctic winter brought with it months of profound darkness, a polar night in some regions, and an absolute cessation of local plant growth. Fresh food was non-existent. Survival depended entirely on carefully preserved provisions, meticulously acquired during warmer months through hunting, fishing, and foraging. Every meal was critical, meticulously planned to maximize nutritional intake, providing essential protein and fat to combat hypothermia and sustain strength. Listen to the contented sizzle of thick soup, simmering in a heavy iron cauldron suspended over the central fire. Its rich, earthy aroma filling the home, making hungry bellies ache with anticipation. Hear the rhythmic crackle and pop of the burning wood, a constant, comforting symphony against the profound silence of the frozen night. See the dark, steaming liquid, its surface shimmering faintly, being ladled into individual wooden bowls, its warmth radiating outwards to numb fingers. Boiled meat, dried fish, and thick porridges sustained life when nothing grew outside. Boiled meat, often from reindeer or other game hunted in autumn, meticulously preserved through drying or smoking, was a staple. Boiling softened tough fibers, making it easier to digest and unlocking maximum nutrients. Dried fish, a crucial source of protein and fat, would be rehydrated and boiled into soups or stews. Thick porridges, made from dried grains, if available through trade, or crushed roots and berries, provided essential carbohydrates and internal warmth. Cooking in frozen darkness was a deliberate, meticulous process. Fuel was precious, so everything was cooked slowly, efficiently, maximizing the use of heat. The prolonged cooking time also contributed to warming the room, creating a more tolerable interior temperature. The aroma of cooking food, a powerful psychological anchor, provided a sense of normalcy and hope amidst overwhelming hardship. A defiant act against the gloom. This communal act of cooking was more than just physical nourishment. It was a ritual of profound connection. Families gathered around the fire, their faces grimly illuminated by the flickering flames. It was a moment to share the day's stories, to reinforce bonds, to acknowledge their collective reliance on each other and on the bounty, however scarce, of the frozen land and sea. Its story, sung in every simmering pot, whispered of profound sustenance. Cooking in frozen darkness reveals a vital secret. Boiled meat, dried fish, and thick porridges sustained life when nothing grew outside. This daily ritual shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the fierce, unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Light during the polar night. Light during the polar night was a profound daily necessity. Oil lamps and fire glow marked time when the sun vanished for weeks, transforming precious illumination into a vital psychological anchor, a testament to relentless ingenuity and the unwavering will to banish profound, encompassing gloom that threatened to consume not just sight, but hope itself. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of reindeer hides, damp earth, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by the warm, earthy smell of burning oil. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the thick log walls. Perhaps the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, the gentle breathing of a family, and the rhythmic flicker of an oil lamp. Snow piled higher than doorways, a visible barrier, underscored the immense darkness beyond the walls. Above the Arctic Circle, the winter brought the phenomenon of polar night, when the sun would not rise above the horizon for weeks or even months. This meant a world plunged into near constant darkness, a profound, disorienting gloom that tested human endurance to its absolute limits. Listen to the low murmur of voices, their tones soft, reflective, conversing within the intimate circle of light. Hear the gentle, rhythmic flicker of the oil lamp, its small flame bravely pushing back the encompassing darkness, casting long, dancing shadows on the rough log walls. See the faces of your family, their expressions softened by the warm, golden glow, their eyes reflecting its fragile gleam. Oil lamps and fire glow marked time when the sun vanished for weeks. The central hearth fire, carefully managed and kept low to conserve fuel, provided a primary source of light, its embers glowing with a persistent red. But crucial for additional, portable light were oil lamps. These simple devices, typically made of clay or stone, with a wick submerged in animal fat, seal blubber, whale oil, or rendered animal grease, burned steadily, providing a consistent, if modest, illumination. These precious lights became essential for every indoor task, preparing food, mending clothes, crafting tools, or simply navigating the cramped space. More importantly, they marked time. The gradual dimming of an oil lamp, the need to replenish its fuel, the rhythmic tending of the fire. These became the internal clock for a people living without a sun, providing a vital sense of routine and progression in an otherwise timeless darkness. The psychological impact was immense. The relentless, pervasive darkness amplified every fear of unseen dangers, of isolation, of the sheer, unending nature of winter. But the small, flickering lights, however fragile, were a profound antidote to despair. They affirmed human presence, provided a focal point for communal life, and offered a tangible symbol of hope, a defiant assertion against the overwhelming gloom. The aroma of burning oil, mingled with wood smoke, became synonymous with warmth, safety, and human activity in a world consumed by darkness. It was a comforting, familiar scent, connecting them to their enduring will. Its story, written in every flickering flame, whispered of profound resilience. Light during the polar night reveals a vital secret. Oil lamps and fire glow marked time when the sun vanished for weeks. This ancient ritual shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the fierce, unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Animals under the same roof. Animals under the same roof was a fundamental, primal reality. Goats, sheep, and dogs shared warmth. Survival erased the line between human and beast, transforming shared living space into a living, breathing furnace, and underscoring the profound interdependence forged in the crucible of Arctic winter, where every living breath contributed to the collective fight against lethal cold. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by the stronger, musky smell of livestock. The sounds were no longer just the crackle of fire or the gentle breathing of sleeping families. They included the lowing of a cow, the bleating of sheep, the contented snuffling of goats, and the soft snores of loyal dogs. Reindeer hides hanging near a central hearth, now shared with furry companions, illuminated a dense mound of human and animal forms. For medieval Norwegians living above the Arctic Circle, particularly during the long lethal winters, housing valuable livestock indoors was a pragmatic necessity. Their animals a cow, a few sheep for wool and occasional meat, goats for milk, and loyal dogs represented a significant portion of their wealth. Protecting them from the lethal cold, from predators, and from thieves was paramount. Thus, animals were often housed in an adjacent byre within the single-room log house itself, or a partitioned corner of the living space, ensuring their safety and maximizing the benefit of their body heat. Listen to the low, rhythmic breathing of the cow, its large body a massive, radiating furnace, its warm breath adding to the internal humidity of the house. Hear the gentle snuffling of the goats, their restless shifts on the straw, their occasional bleats quickly settling into a quiet contentedness. See the indistinct forms of the animals in the dim firelight, their bodies a warm, furry barrier against the cold that sought to penetrate the log walls, their shared space a testament to utter practicality. The warmth provided by the animals was immense, absolutely crucial for human survival. Their collective body heat, radiating outwards, could significantly raise the ambient temperature of the house, perhaps by several precious degrees. In the depths of winter, this difference could mean the distinction between a night of tolerable cold and a night of life-threatening hypothermia, especially for infants and elders. Survival erased the line between human and beast. The profound proximity, born of necessity, blurred the conventional separation between humans and animals. They shared the same air, the same space, the same struggle against the cold. Dogs, loyal companions, often curled directly at the edges of the human sleeping huddle, their bodies lending warmth, and their keen senses providing an early warning system against unseen dangers outside. The discomforts were secondary: the cramped quarters, the pervasive dampness, the lingering smells, the incessant itching of shared animal hides and parasites. These were small prices to pay for the invaluable warmth and security it provided, a continuous battle against freezing dead. Its story, woven into every shared breath, whispered of profound interdependence. Animals under the same roof reveals a vital secret. Goats, sheep, and dogs shared warmth. Survival erased the line between human and beast. This ancient ritual shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the fierce, unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Goats, sheep, and dogs shared warmth. Survival erased the line between human and beast. Part 4. Arctic Dangers, When the Fire Went Out. When the fire went out was a profound, terrifying reality. At 40 degrees Celsius, cold moved faster than fear. Minutes mattered, transforming a fundamental necessity into an immediate, lethal crisis, and underscoring the relentless vigilance required to maintain the fragile spark of life against overwhelming, lethal cold, where failure meant certain, agonizing death. Imagine the air inside the log house, utterly frigid, sharp and brutal, stealing your breath, thick with the subtle scent of ice, old timber, and the pervasive aroma of human desperation, now mingling with the acrid tang of dead embers. The sounds were no longer the gentle crackle of a thriving hearth. They included the low moans of shivering bodies, the soft rustle of thin blankets, and the profound, almost eerie silence of a home stripped of its warmth. Oak beams blackened by centuries of smoke, now cold and silent, testified to a life force extinguished. The central hearth fire, carefully managed and kept low to conserve precious fuel, was the absolute heart of the medieval Norwegian home. It cooked their food, provided essential light, and most crucially, generated the warmth that literally kept the family alive in conditions plummeting to -40 degrees Celsius. Fuel scraps of wood, gathered peat, or dried animal dung was precious and constantly scarce in winter. Its meticulous management was a matter of life and death, an unending chore in a season built for death. Listen to the low moans of shivering bodies, their voices thick with cold and despair, as they huddled together, trying to generate warmth from their own failing bodies. Hear the soft rustle of thin blankets, utterly insufficient against the penetrating cold, as family members shifted restlessly. See the hearth, its pit empty, filled only with cold, gray ash, a stark, visual reminder of its extinguished life, its vital warmth utterly vanished. At 40 degrees Celsius cold moved faster than fear. Minutes mattered. This was the ultimate, terrifying consequence of the fire going out. Without the radiant heat of the hearth, the interior temperature of the log house would rapidly plummet to lethal levels, quickly matching the extreme cold outside. The thick walls and turf roof, while insulating, could only slow the inevitable invasion of deathly cold. Hypothermia would set in swiftly, insidiously. Bodies already weakened by chronic hunger and shallow sleep would struggle desperately to generate and retain heat. Shivering would become uncontrollable, followed by confusion, lethargy, and ultimately, a peaceful, fatal slumber from which there was no awakening. For infants, for elders, for the sick, minutes truly mattered. The window for rekindling or escape was terrifyingly small. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of the fire's vital importance, the knowledge that their survival hinged on its continuous presence, fueled a deep-seated anxiety. The fear of losing the fire, of being plunged into lethal cold and darkness, was a pervasive, profound terror that overshadowed every waking hour and haunted every restless sleep. The winter itself was a relentless adversary. The scarcity of firewood, the arduous labor of foraging for fuel through deep snow and frozen ground, the high cost of acquiring it, all these compounded the profound vulnerability of the family. Each dwindling log was a silent countdown to potential disaster. Its story, written in every shivering breath, whispered of profound vulnerability. When the fire went out reveals a vital secret. At 40 degrees Celsius, cold moved faster than fear. Minutes mattered. This harsh reality shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Frostbite and frozen limbs. Frostbite and frozen limbs were a grim, pervasive reality. Skin blackened, fingers stiffened, and pain faded into numb silence, transforming a part of the body into a tragic casualty, and underscoring the profound vulnerability of human flesh to extreme cold, forever marking those who survived with indelible scars and a chilling memory of winter's merciless grip. Imagine the air inside the log house, utterly frigid, sharp and brutal, thick with the subtle scent of ice, old timber, and the pervasive aroma of human apprehension, now mingled with the acrid tang of dying flesh. The sounds were no longer the low moans of shivering bodies. They included the hushed murmurs of worried family members, the quiet whimpers of pain, and the profound, eerie silence of numbness. Blue twilight filtering through tiny windows, its faint glow struggling against the interior gloom. Illuminated faces etched with grim understanding. For medieval Norwegians living above the Arctic Circle, frostbite was an ever-present, terrifying threat. Exposed skin, even briefly, to minus 40 degrees Celsius temperatures could lead to rapid tissue freezing. Fingers, toes, ears, and nose were particularly vulnerable, their small surface area and distant blood supply making them susceptible to the cold's insidious attack. Listen to the hushed murmurs of worried family members, their voices low and grave, discussing the ominous signs of frostbite. Hear the quiet whimpers of pain as someone tried to move a stiffened limb, or the profound, eerie silence that followed the onset of numbness. See the skin, once healthy, now discolored pale white, then blue, and ominously black, its surface hard and unyielding. Skin blackened, fingers stiffened, and pain faded into numb silence. The progression of frostbite was horrifying. Initially, exposed skin would become numb, feeling cold and prickly. As freezing occurred, ice crystals would form within the cells, damaging tissue. The skin would turn pale, then waxy white, and, terrifyingly, dark blue or even black, signifying tissue death. Fingers and toes would stiffen, becoming rigid and lifeless, losing all sensation. The initial sharp pain would eventually fade into a profound, terrifying numbness, a silent declaration of the cold's triumph. The consequences were devastating. If the frostbite was severe, the affected limbs, fingers, toes, entire hands or feet would become gangrenous, requiring amputation, often performed crudely with a heated knife or saw, without anesthetic, and with immense risk of fatal infection. For those who survived, the disfigurement was permanent, a lifelong mark of the Arctic's brutal embrace, crippling them for life. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of this danger, the fear of losing a limb, of becoming incapacitated in a world that demanded full physical capability, was a crushing burden. It amplified the sense of profound vulnerability, deepening the despair. Its story, written in every blackened finger, whispered of constant peril. Frostbite and frozen limbs reveals a vital secret. Skin blackened, fingers stiffened, and pain faded into numb silence. This harsh reality shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Isolation in white nothingness. As medieval Norwegian families battled the insidious cold and the terrifying specter of frostbite within their log homes, the vast, unforgiving Arctic landscape outside often imposed another, equally profound threat. Isolation in white nothingness was a pervasive, chilling reality. Blizzards erased paths and voices, cutting families off for months, transforming communities into precarious islands, and underscoring the immense fragility of their existence, perpetually at the mercy of nature's overwhelming, unforgiving power far above the Arctic Circle. Imagine the air outside, utterly frigid, sharp, and brutal, stealing your breath, thick with the biting force of snow and ice, mingled with the profound stillness of an immense, unbroken white. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a thriving fire. They included the relentless, violent roar of the wind, the rhythmic creak of straining lodgepoles, and the profound, almost eerie silence that snow itself created. Snow piled higher than doorways, here replaced by immense, towering drifts against the log walls, a visible, unyielding barrier. The Arctic winter brought blizzards of unimaginable ferocity. Winds howled ceaselessly, whipping fine, dry snow into blinding eddies that reduced visibility to mere inches, turning the world into a featureless, terrifying whiteout. Temperatures plummeted further, and the ground merged with the sky, creating a chaotic, disorienting void that could quickly claim any exposed life. Listen to the relentless, deafening roar of the wind, screaming through the gaps in the outer hides. A banshee's wail, it seemed to encompass the entire world, pressing against the log walls, testing its very foundations. Hear the rhythmic creak of straining lodge poles, if a temporary shelter, protesting softly under the immense pressure, yet bending, flexing, absorbing the force rather than breaking. See the immense snowdrifts, piled high against every door and window, burying entire sections of houses, transforming the village into a landscape of undulating white. Blizzards erased paths and voices, cutting families off for months. The roads, mere tracks in warmer months, would vanish under immense snowdrifts, making travel utterly impossible. Rivers, their currents frozen solid, became equally impassable. Villages, often separated by vast tracts of wilderness, would become entirely cut off from the outside world, sealed within a vast, white expanse. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of their isolation, the knowledge that no help could reach them, amplified every fear of hunger, of sickness, of death. The profound silence of the snowbound landscape, broken only by the howl of the wind, amplified the sense of loneliness, of vulnerability, of being utterly at the mercy of nature. Communication with other families or communities ceased, their voices literally erased by the storm. Their survival depended entirely on the provisions painstakingly gathered and stored from the previous autumn. Dried meat, fish, berries, and what little cultivated produce could be kept. Every crumb, every ration, became precious beyond measure, a grim daily calculation, for there was no replenishment from outside. Its story, written in every isolated creek, whispered of profound fortitude. Isolation in white nothingness reveals a vital secret. Blizzards erased paths and voices, cutting families off for months. This harsh reality shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Roofs under crushing weight. The longest nights were a crucial test of human endurance. Winter solstice marked survival. Each day after meant hope, transforming the terrifying peak of cold into a gradual, almost ritualistic progression towards renewal, and underscoring the deep connection between celestial cycles, human resilience, and the unwavering belief in the eventual return of warmth and light. Imagine the air inside the half-timbered home, utterly frigid, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling included the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, the gentle breathing of a family huddled close, and the profound, almost eerie silence that snow itself created. Frost-fogged windows glowing with firelight illuminated faces etched with weariness, but softened by profound anticipation. The winter solstice, the shortest day and longest night of the year, around December 21st in the Northern Hemisphere, was a moment of immense cosmic and human significance in medieval society. It marked the deepest descent into winter, the peak of cold and darkness, a time when humanity's existence felt most precarious, most vulnerable to the lethal grip of nature. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the soft crackle of the central hearth fire, its warmth rising, gradually filling the interior. See the faces of your family, their expressions etched with weariness, their eyes distant, fixed on some unseen horizon, awaiting the subtle shift in the length of daylight. Winter solstice marked survival. Each day after meant hope. The passing of the solstice, the knowledge that from this point forward, the days would slowly, inexorably begin to lengthen, even by a minute, was a powerful psychological turning point. It brought a profound sense of relief, a tangible promise of the sun's gradual return, a spiritual affirmation that the cold, the darkness, the endless struggle would not last forever. Each day after the solstice was a step towards spring, a slow, arduous march towards renewal. This gradual increase in daylight, however imperceptible to modern eyes, was meticulously observed and celebrated by medieval peasants. It provided a crucial anchor against despair, a tangible reason to cling to hope, a visible sign that the earth itself was slowly, reluctantly, awakening, preparing for the inevitable thaw. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of this celestial cycle, the belief that the sun, though distant, was slowly reclaiming its power, fostered an unwavering resilience. It transformed the deepest despair into a quiet, tenacious hope, fueling their will to endure the remaining months of winter, their spirits lifted by the promise of lengthening days. Rituals and celebrations, often rooted in older pagan traditions absorbed into Christianity, would mark the solstice. Feasts, special prayers, communal gatherings. These were acts of collective hope, reaffirming their faith in the cyclical nature of life, the promise of rebirth. Its story, written in every lengthening day, whispered of profound renewal. The longest nights reveal a vital secret. Winter solstice marked survival. Each day after meant hope. This ancient ritual shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the fierce, unyielding will to defy -20 degrees Celsius and build life in a world that sought to freeze it. Its warmth a profound secret of enduring strength, found in the sacred embrace of celestial promise. Death in the cold north. Death in the cold north was a grim, pervasive reality. Loss came quietly, a body that never warmed again, transforming a season of hardship into a relentless, silent reaper, and underscoring the immense fragility of life in an age utterly devoid of modern medicine, comfort, or any true defense against nature's merciless power at minus 40 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the log house, utterly frigid, sharp and brutal, stealing your breath, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, stale breath, and the subtle tang of human presence, now mingled with the sour smell of sickness, profound weakness, and the chilling scent of death. The sounds were no longer the low moans of hunger. They included the soft breathing of sleeping families, the low moans of the dying, and the profound, almost eerie silence that sometimes fell over a household. Blue twilight filtering through tiny windows, now muted by thick frost, illuminated faces etched with weariness and profound sorrow. The medieval Arctic winter was always a period of increased mortality, particularly for the most vulnerable members of society. But in such a brutal climate, where temperatures plummeted to minus 40 degrees Celsius and sustained warmth was a constant battle, death rates soared. Bodies, weakened by chronic hunger, illness, and constant cold, succumbed quickly, often in the quiet solitude of their homes, away from the chaos of plague or war. Listen to the low moans of the dying, their voices hoarse with cold and despair, as they lay on their reindeer hide beds, their bodies frail, their strength ebbing. Hear the hushed whispers of grieving family members, reciting ancient prayers, sharing final mournful words. See the solemn faces of those gathered, their expressions grim, their hearts heavy with grief, yet accepting of the inevitable, their breath pluming white in the frigid air, illuminated by the dwindling firelight. Loss came quietly, a body that never warmed again. The very old, their bodies weakened by a lifetime of toil and the natural decline of age, were most susceptible to hypothermia and cold-related illnesses like pneumonia. The sick, already battling fevers or chronic ailments, found their bodies simply unable to fight any longer against the relentless chill. Death often arrived silently, insidiously. A person might simply fall asleep, too cold, too weak, and never wake. The cold was a silent killer, creeping into homes, claiming lives without visible violence. Their bodies, often stiff with rigor mortis and preserved by the intense cold, might remain unnoticed for hours or even days by a family too exhausted to realize the subtle shift, a chilling absence in the morning. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of death's intimate presence, the knowledge that anyone could succumb at any moment, fueled a deep-seated anxiety. It amplified the sense of profound helplessness, deepening the despair, transforming the fragile sanctuary of the home into a space perpetually shadowed by mortality. Its story, written in every quiet passing, whispered of profound fragility. Death in the cold north reveals a vital secret. Loss came quietly, a body that never warmed again. This harsh reality shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Part 5. Endurance and Memory. As the brutal medieval Norwegian winter plunged the log homes into profound darkness and relentless cold, and the looming threats of starvation, illness, and death pressed in from all sides, human ingenuity found solace not just in physical warmth, but in the power of shared narrative. Stories in the long night were a profound ancient ritual. Voices replaced sunlight, anchoring memory in endless darkness, transforming the oppressive gloom into a canvas for the imagination, binding the small family group in shared wisdom and a profound sense of connection to their ancestors and the spirit world. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of reindeer hides, damp earth, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling included the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, the low murmur of muffled coughs, and the gentle breathing of a family huddled close. Reindeer hides hanging near a central hearth, gently illuminated by its flickering glow, formed a backdrop for tales whispered through the Arctic night. The central hearth fire, carefully banked and kept low to conserve precious fuel, was the heart of the home. Its flickering orange and red light was the sole beacon against the overwhelming darkness that pressed in from all sides. Around this fragile glow, the family would gather, drawing close, their bodies pressed together not just for warmth, but for the profound psychological comfort of proximity. Listen to the low, resonant voice of the storyteller, often an elder or the head of the household. Their words would weave through the smoky air, recounting ancient sagas, tales of powerful animal spirits, of courageous hunters whose deeds secured their survival, of mischievous Hulder, forest spirits, or of the creation of their world itself. Hear the soft gasps of children, their eyes wide and fixed on the dancing shadows, their small imaginations populating the gloom with the creatures and characters of the tales. See the elders, their faces etched with the hard-won wisdom of countless winters, listening intently, their own memories intertwining with the narrative. Voices replaced sunlight, anchoring memory in endless darkness. For weeks or even months during the polar night, the sun would not rise above the horizon. In this profound, encompassing gloom, the human voice, the richness of shared narrative, became a vital source of illumination, replacing the absent sunlight. Stories transmitted crucial knowledge-hunting strategies, weather prediction, routes for migration, anchoring the collective memory of the tribe in the vast, timeless darkness. These stories served multiple vital functions. They were a powerful way to keep the mind from dwelling on the deadly cold, the gnawing hunger, and the pervasive fear of the night, offering a psychological escape. They taught the young about the history of their band, the customs of their ancestors, the moral lessons embedded in their beliefs, and the practical knowledge needed for survival. Tales of things that wander the woods served as warnings, reinforcing the need for vigilance. The flickering firelight, casting its dancing shadows on the rough log walls, became an integral part of the storytelling. Familiar objects, a hanging tool, a basket, a carved figure, would be transformed into monstrous shapes, into dancing figures, into spectral presences. These were the living shadows, their constant transformation a source of both fascination and subtle, unsettling fear, amplifying the drama of the oral narratives. Its story, written in every whispered word, whispered of profound connection. Stories in the Long Night reveals a vital secret. Voices replaced sunlight, anchoring memory in endless darkness. This ancient ritual shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Belief, myth, and protection. Belief, myth, and protection were a profound daily reality. Runes, prayers, and old gods whispered into timber walls, transforming abstract piety into a tangible, psychological shield, underscoring the unwavering spiritual strength and profound hope that defied the overwhelming, lethal indifference of nature. Imagine the air inside the log house, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of reindeer hides, damp earth, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling included the soft crackle of the dwindling fire, the low murmur of whispered prayers, and the gentle breathing of a family huddled close. Blue twilight filtering through tiny windows, now muted by thick frost, illuminated faces etched with weariness, but softened by profound, unwavering belief. The medieval Norwegian world, particularly above the Arctic Circle, was deeply steeped in a blend of Norse pagan traditions and emergent Christianity. For peasants, life was a daily struggle, but it was also a spiritual journey, where the forces of nature, the actions of men, and the whims of gods and spirits were intricately intertwined. In winter, when physical comfort was minimal and death ever present, faith became a crucial existential lifeline, providing an antidote to despair. Listen to the low rhythmic murmur of whispered prayers, their words barely audible above the soft crackle of the dwindling fire, rising with the smoke towards the heavens. Hear the gentle breathing of your family, their lives utterly dependent on divine mercy. See the crude, handmade crosses, perhaps carved into an oak beam, or the intricate patterns of a protective rune etched into the log walls, their presence a silent, unwavering prayer, a tangible symbol of their faith and spiritual defense. Runes, prayers, and old gods whispered into timber walls. Runes, ancient Germanic characters imbued with magical power, would be carved into doorframes, bedposts, or beams, believed to offer protection from evil spirits, illness, or misfortune. Christian prayers, often simple blessings or pleas for divine protection, would be whispered into the smoke of the hearth or murmured over sleeping children, seeking God's mercy. The old gods of Norse mythology, though officially supplanted by Christianity, often continued to exert a powerful influence. Figures like Thor for protection against storms, Freya for fertility, or the Landvidder, land spirits, for protection of their homes and livestock, might be subtly invoked, their favor sought, their wrath feared. These older beliefs, blended with Christian piety, created a rich, complex spiritual landscape. Belief offered warmth when fire could not. The spiritual warmth derived from unwavering faith was a profound psychological comfort. It provided an antidote to despair, a source of inner strength that transcended the physical cold. The knowledge that gods and spirits watched over them, that their suffering had meaning, that an eternal reward awaited, fueled a quiet, tenacious hope, allowing them to endure hardships that would otherwise break them. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of their faith, the daily rituals of prayer, the reliance on spiritual protection, these fostered a deep sense of purpose, a profound resilience against the immense indifferent forces of nature. It provided a crucial anchor against despair, a profound sense of purpose in a world defined by hardship. Its story, written in every carved rune, whispered of profound solace. Belief, myth, and protection reveals a vital secret. Runes, prayers, and old gods whispered into timber walls. This ancient ritual shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Waiting for the sun return. Waiting for the sun's return was a crucial test of human endurance. The first light after polar night marked survival, not joy, transforming the terrifying peak of cold into a gradual, almost ritualistic, progression towards renewal, and underscoring the deep connection between celestial cycles, human resilience, and the unwavering belief in the eventual triumph of light. Imagine the air inside the log house, utterly frigid, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of reindeer hides, damp earth, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling included the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, the gentle breathing of a family huddled close, and the profound, almost eerie silence that snow itself created. Blue twilight filtering through tiny windows, now muted by thick frost. Illuminated faces etched with weariness, but softened by profound anticipation. Above the Arctic Circle, the winter brought the phenomenon of polar night, when the sun would not rise above the horizon for weeks or even months. This meant a world plunged into near constant darkness, a profound, disorienting gloom that tested human endurance to its absolute limits. The absence of the sun, the ultimate source of warmth and life, was a terrifying reality. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the soft crackle of the central hearth fire, its warmth rising, gradually filling the interior. See the faces of your family, their expressions etched with weariness, their eyes distant, fixed on the tiny windows, awaiting the subtle shift in the quality of the light, the faint promise of the sun's return. The first light after polar night marked survival, not joy. The passing of the deepest polar night, the knowledge that from this point forward, the sun would slowly, inexorably, begin its hesitant climb above the horizon, even if only for a few minutes, was a powerful psychological turning point. It brought a profound sense of relief, a tangible promise of the sun's gradual return, a spiritual affirmation that the cold, the darkness, the endless struggle would not last forever. Each day after the darkest point was a step towards spring, a slow, arduous march towards renewal. This gradual increase in daylight, however imperceptible to modern eyes, was meticulously observed and celebrated by medieval Norwegians. It provided a crucial anchor against despair, a tangible reason to cling to hope, a visible sign that the earth itself was slowly, reluctantly, awakening, preparing for the inevitable thaw. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of this celestial cycle, the belief that the sun, though distant, was slowly reclaiming its power, fostered an unwavering resilience. It transformed the deepest despair into a quiet, tenacious hope. Fueling their will to endure the remaining months of winter, their spirits lifted by the promise of lengthening days. Rituals and celebrations, often rooted in older pagan traditions absorbed into Christianity, would mark the solstice. Feasts, special prayers, communal gatherings. These were acts of collective hope, reaffirming their faith in the cyclical nature of life, the promise of rebirth. Its story, written in every lengthening day, whispered of profound renewal. Waiting for the sun's return reveals a vital secret. The first light after polar night marked survival, not joy. This ancient ritual shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Thaw and movement. The thaw and movement were a joyous, life-affirming miracle. Snow melts, roofs drip, and life slowly moves outside again, transforming a landscape of despair into a vibrant canvas of renewal. A profound act of nature's forgiveness that celebrated the triumph of life over the long, harsh grip of winter, and reaffirmed the enduring human spirit. Snow melts, roofs strip, and life slowly moves outside again. Imagine the air, crisp and invigorating, thick with the earthy scent of thawing soil, of melting snow, and the pervasive aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the fresh, clean tang of new growth. The sounds are no longer the mournful howl of the wind. They include the distant, rhythmic drip of melting ice, the cheerful calls of returning birds, and the cautious murmur of villagers emerging from their homes. Pale dawn over frost-bitten fields, now visibly softening, illuminates a world slowly, miraculously, coming back to life. For countless months, the medieval Norwegian landscape had been locked in winter's grip. Roads were buried under snow, rivers frozen solid, and fields lay fallow. The very act of living had been confined to the small, smoky warmth of their log homes. But with the subtle lengthening of the days after the solstice, with the sun's tentative, returning warmth, the immutable power of the cold began its slow, inevitable surrender. Listen to the distinct, almost crystalline drip-drip that would pierce the profound silence of the morning. A soft, rhythmic cadence echoing from the eaves of every log house. Hear the subtle groans and creaks as the thawing snow shifted on the roofs, releasing its grip. See the small, dark rivulets of water, slowly tracing their path down timber-bird walls, glistening faintly in the pale daylight, a tangible sign of profound change. The immense blanket of snow, which had covered the world for months, would slowly begin its grudging surrender, melting into muddy rivulets that flowed across the fields, creating a symphony of returning water. The heavy snow on the roofs would liquefy, dripping relentlessly, creating a constant, soothing rhythm, a promise of renewal. As the ground softened and the muddy paths slowly reappeared, life cautiously ventured outside again. Villagers, their faces still gaunt from winter's privations, would emerge, greeting each other with hushed words, their eyes holding a shared understanding of the hardships endured. Children, those who had survived, would venture out, their small forms eager to explore the newly revealed muddy landscape, their laughter tentative at first, but growing with renewed hope. The psychological and spiritual impact was immense. The thaw returns like forgiveness. It was a profound antidote to the despair of the long winter, a powerful affirmation that the cold, the darkness, the endless struggle had been endured. It instilled a renewed sense of hope, a tangible connection to the cyclical rhythms of nature, a belief in the promise of renewal, a collective sigh of gratitude for nature's mercy. Its story, painted in every melting drop, whispered of profound renewal. Thaw and movement reveals a vital secret. Snow melts, roofs drip, and life slowly moves outside again. This ancient ritual shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. The houses that still breathe, are an unshakable legacy. Centuries later, the logs remain, cracked, darkened, and alive with memory, transforming humble structures into timeless monuments, echoing through the vast, silent landscape of history, and defining the very essence of medieval survival. Imagine the air, crisp and clean, thick with the sweet scent of new growth, damp earth, and the pervasive aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the low hum of modern life. The sounds are no longer the mournful howl of the wind. They include the rhythmic beat of distant farming machinery, the low murmur of contemporary voices, and the gentle rustle of leaves, all echoing the profound lessons of past winters. Pale dawn over frostbitten fields, now verdant with new growth, illuminates homes that have defied time. The log houses of medieval Norway, meticulously built from pine and spruce, with their intricately notched corners, raised floors, heavy turf roofs, and small, protected windows, were constructed with a profound understanding of their harsh Arctic environment. They were designed not just for temporary shelter, but for longevity, for enduring countless brutal winters, for providing a continuous sanctuary for generations. Listen to the low murmur of modern tourists, their voices hushed with awe and curiosity, as they visit carefully preserved medieval villages or open-air museums. Hear the creak of ancient timbers, still supporting their roofs, still defying the elements, their sounds resonating with centuries of quiet human presence. See the massive log walls, their surfaces cracked and darkened by time, yet their robust construction, a visual testament to ingenious craftsmanship, a blend of strength and beauty. Centuries later, the logs remain, cracked, darkened, and alive with memory. Many of these log houses, meticulously maintained or faithfully reconstructed, still stand today, scattered across Norway and other Nordic regions. They are not mere historical relics. They are living testaments to the quiet ingenuity, the profound resilience, and the unwavering determination of the medieval people who built and lived in them. They defy the passage of time, bearing witness to lives lived on the edge of endurance. These enduring structures stand as silent proof of how humanity, with limited resources but immense knowledge, found ways to defy temperatures of -40 degrees Celsius. They showcase the effectiveness of their building techniques, the insulating power of thick logs and turf, the wisdom of tight joinery, the self-shedding design of roofs, the strength of their carefully chosen timbers. The memory of the cold, the hunger, the constant fear, and the profound resilience forged in those brutal winters is embedded in these homes. They are physical anchors to a distant past, reminding us of the immense challenges humanity has faced and the remarkable ingenuity it has displayed in overcoming them. They speak of the quiet strength of ordinary families, the collective determination to persist, to build, to endure. Its story, etched in every enduring log, whispers of unwavering resilience. The houses that still breathe reveal a vital secret. Centuries later, the logs remain, cracked, darkened, and alive with memory. This timeless legacy shaped how Norwegians endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 40 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill, a constant reminder of how humanity built to survive and how its memory lives on, breathing through the very timbers of history. When the fire sinks low beneath a crust of ash and the Arctic night presses close against the logs, you begin to understand what life above the northern forests once demanded of those who lived there. That warmth was not comfort. It was permission to remain alive. Beyond the walls, the world stood frozen in silence. Snow climbed higher than doors. The wind erased all paths, all voices, all mercy. Inside the log house, thick pine trunks waited patiently, stacked and notched with knowledge older than memory. Their mass held the day's warmth, releasing it slowly into the long, breathless night. Firelight flickered low. Reindeer hides hung heavy along the walls. Oil lamps whispered against the dark. When the sun itself refused to rise, families gathered close, not out of affection, but because closeness was heat, and heat was survival. Children slept beneath layers of fur. Dogs curled tight near the hearth. Animals shifted softly in shared space, their bodies offering what the land would not. Outside, the forest stood motionless, trees cracking under cold so deep it sounded like breaking bone. The air itself burned when breathed, and when the fire faltered, someone rose from sleep without words, hands numb, breath shallow, to stir embers back into life. There was no panic, no drama, only practice, learned through winters that forgave nothing. Stories moved through the darkness. Old gods, quiet prayers, and remembered ancestors settled into the logs like a second layer of insulation. Time slowed. Days were counted by flame, nights by endurance. And perhaps that is the quiet truth. These houses still hold within their walls that survival in the far north was not loud or heroic. It was careful, shared, built log by log, and protected every night by human presence. So rest now. Let the wind pass harmlessly beyond your walls. Let the snow pile high without threat. Let the fire glow steady and safe. You have drifted through a world where silence ruled, where warmth was sacred, and where people endured the coldest nights on earth with timber, fire, and patience. Sleep well tonight, and may the quiet strength of those northern homes keep watch over your dreams.